So we have an interrogation today with Tommy Crooks from the Levitate era. He's quite a talented man. He speaks several languages. He's a visual artist, photographer, guitarist for the Fall, and now he's a successful businessman. Super interesting conversation with him about his time in the 90s with the Fall and touring with the band and just the fantastic experience he had being with them.
Yeah, it's such a great, enjoyable chat with Tommy, and we know you're going to enjoy it because sometimes when you interview musicians and artists, you never know what you're going to get. If they're going to, it's kind of like a Marky Smith, if they're going to be in a giving mood, or if they're going to be difficult, or if they even want to look back at their lives and really think about it any more than they usually do on a day-to-day basis. But then you get individuals like Tommy Crooks, who is just so forthcoming and giving, and honestly, telling us stuff that we never heard before, which is great. And hopefully, it's new and fresh fall stories for your ears as well. So, without further ado, let's get into our interrogation with Mr. Tommy Crooks. We saw like you had a post, I don't know how recent it was, where you were maybe with Bricks.
Yeah, that was a wee while ago now, but I caught up with the boys earlier on in the year. We were playing in Edinburgh, so Steve and Paul and Carol, who I hadn't seen in like since 1998,
Yeah.
and Martin Brama as well. So it was the full squad. Grant Showbiz was doing their sound. So it was an amazing that was an amazing catch up, especially seeing Carol Burns again after all those years. It was just beautiful.
We've been enjoying listening to those boys perform on those new albums, and it's unfortunate we haven't got to see them live yet, but maybe someday soon.
They're brilliant live.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're brilliant live. I've been to see them a couple of times. I'm going to go down to Manchester in November,
Mm,
see them playing, and catch up with Steve and Carol. Still got a lot of catching up to do with Carol because it's been a
yeah.
long time, But yeah, they're doing good. And then Martin's writing's amazing. It's different to what Mark used to do,
Yeah.
um, but it's just amazing to hear these guys playing again.
Is it inspiring to you to think about, maybe getting that guitar going
Believe me, I've actually damaged my finger,
Oh,
so I can't play anymore. It's joint degeneration in two of my fingers from that because after the fall, I got into building houses and stuff like that.
oh, really?
A lot of physical labor did my fingers in.
Oh, so we like to kind of figure out, or we find it interesting if you could tell us about your first experience, like hearing the fall and like what that was like for you.
During the fall, I actually heard the fall just after I'd left school, believe it or not.
Mm,
Totally wired. And I wasn't interested in it. I was still
mm,
in a bad mood that the Sex Pistols had broken up.
yeah,
A really bad mood about that.
yeah,
And but it was a school friend. And then wasn't until later on when I was in art college and Ben Sinister came out. And I bought that and got into it straight away and then just started listening more and more and more.
oh,
But like it was a big thing at art college when I was there, like everybody was into the fall, and that was like, you know, just the music at the time, you
mm.
know, that's what everyone sort of drew their inspiration from.
Do you remember what it was about Ben Sinister that really caught your ear, your liking?
And actually, what it was I'd seen on TV, that's right, there used to be this show on TV called the South Bank Show.
Mm,
And it was a kind of highbrow art program, a guy called Melvin Bragg. I mean, you don't even get TV like that now. It was pretty like high end.
uh-huh.
And it was the Fall and Michael Clark. They doing a performance on this show, and they're doing "Living Too Late." And it
Oh
just
yeah.
really resonated with me, that track. I just thought that's me at that moment in time. That was like, and I hadn't really listened to the full, but that was enough to go and buy the album.
Yeah.
And that was it from there, sort of thing.
Where Steve and I have been talking about the visual aesthetic of the band, and also, I mean, you brought some of that to the band, obviously, but I'm wondering, like, can you tell us about how you got into the band? Because your pathway to the band is much different than a lot of the other former members, where you're coming from a visual art domain instead of a musician first and foremost.
Well, I'd actually bumped into Mark one morning. It was about 6:30 in the morning
Yeah.
in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I was listening to full all the time by that point. You know, I think I'd moved from Dundee down to East Lothian, to the area that I live in now. And I'd met him on the street, and I couldn't believe it. I said, yeah, I just like said, Mark E. Smith.
Yeah.
I said, let's go for a beer, because there was pubs open
Yeah.
in that part of Edinburgh. So we went for a beer, and it just went from there. I got a postcard from Mark. We spent like half an hour together chatting and stuff. I got a postcard from him, and then the office sent an album to me. Can't remember, but I noticed on the album cover, that's terrible. I noticed on the album cover that Craig Scanlon wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was a photo of the band. And so I actually phoned the office and said, "Was Craig? Craig's left the band." I said, "Well, if you need a guitarist, I'll play." As simple as that. Because I used to play when I was in school. I had a little punk rock band, and I'd played, you know, I literally, from the age of 14 till the age of 15 and a half, spent my entire time in my bedroom playing to never mind the bollocks.
Sure.
Like, I actually had, believe it or not, this is showing my age, I had a Sex Pistols songbook. A songbook, right, with the chords in it.
Yeah.
And a little blue book that every guitarist in Britain had this book. Everybody, probably. Johnny Marr, bloody, anybody could think of. And it was called 500 Chord Shapes.
Yeah.
It was a blue book, and I bet you 100 quid he had it, and like everybody else could think of.
Did that help you? Did that help you in the fall, those chords?
Well, these were the chords I knew. Everybody knew these chords. Well, you knew about 6 or 7 of them anyway. And so I learned that Pistols album, note for note, to even, I'll tell you, to the point where I actually thought I was in the Sex Pistols when I was 15. I would stand like Steve Jones, same thing. And the amplifier I had was like 5 watts. It was like a little thing, which again, a lot of musicians in Britain would have had stuff like that. You know, really crappy stuff. Yeah, I was kind of like, I'd played live, and then I just grabbed a guitar out, got the amp out, and started practicing again, because they came back and said, "We want you playing a couple of gigs." And I was like, fucking joking. You gotta be joking. So I just started practicing, and I got a list of songs.
Yeah.
So I just went through all of these songs. And of course, the night of the gig, Mark just produced a totally different set list.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Doesn't let you get prepared.
I was ready for it anyway. I'd been staying with Steve Hanley for the week before the gig. We'd been playing all the time together, going through stuff. That's it in a nutshell. That's how that happened.
And they had taken your art before that. Was that exciting for you, or were you like, oh,
yeah, that was exciting, because that was exciting. One of the put one of my paintings onto the live album. Yeah, so kind of like building up a connection. I kind of feel it was sort of, you know, everyone with the fall, it was kind of meant to be, you know, something that was like it was in the ether.
It seemed like also Mark was always had his antenna up for his lyric writing. Obviously, if he heard something, if he saw something, it would go into his writing. It seemed like he was kind of like that as well with like art and seeing art. Do you have any experiences or like your perception of the way he kind of digested visual art at all, or what his kind of ethos was for that and the band?
Visual art, reflecting on that now, I
Yeah.
kind of think that Mark and people of our generation were more kind of exposed to classic literature and art, And
Hmm.
I mean, there used to be on the TV on a Friday and Saturday night late, used to be
Hmm.
a European movie,
Oh.
and I used to stay up to watch these because you'd always get nudity and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you think this is great, but as a secondary effect, you were getting exposed to classic, really amazing stuff.
Hmm.
Francois Truffaut, The Virgin Spring. That was a movie. Ingmar Bergman. I
Yeah.
don't know what's that, 14 or something, maybe even younger. So Mark was a very, very smart individual as well, no? And he would no doubt be influenced by certain things, but it is his own unique perspective
Hmm.
on everything. So it's difficult to know it's difficult to
For
second
sure.
guess what he was thinking. But yeah, he had an antenna, as you say. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the thought process or the concept behind the Levitate album cover? Because that's something that's really intriguing to us. The photographs you did.
That's it. Do you know what? That's like no one's ever really I can tell you exactly what that came from. I was like I was living in the middle of nowhere and I was
Mm.
still working as an artist, right, painting, and I was getting really sick of it. Really, really sick of it. And there was a young farmer lived next, and you think like me and a young farmer, totally opposite polar ends of the spectrum. But I got on really, really well with this guy. He was a really good guy since he's moved to Canada. And he asked me if I would help him out and work in the fields. So I thought, yeah, sure, no problem. And he was paying us money and it was good and it was a nice summer and everything. And I remember like it was roguing wild barley
Mm.
in an oats field. So what happens is the wild no, it's wild oats in a barley field, right? So what happens is they grow the barley and it comes up to height. But if you get oats growing in it, right, they can take over the entire field.
Oh.
So you've got to walk through the field and tune your eyes into seeing the odd wild oats thing, and you pull it out.
Huh.
That's called roguing.
Huh.
That's called it, roguing wild oats. So I was doing that for this guy, and I was walking about, and eventually your eyes tune, you can see one 100 yards away.
Huh.
I'm going to that. And while I was working on that, in that field, I turned around one day and I saw the path going down beside the field. And I thought, usually I would see a path when I was walking down it. I would never, ever see it from this angle. So it was a complete change of perspective from, and just entirely different angle, you know. Uh, And then I thought, I'm a farmhand. I was working as a farmhand.
Yeah.
I actually, so I was wearing this boiler suit when I went home at lunchtime. It's just like, 5-minute walk. Got this tin foil out, wrapped it around my head, and set up a tripod and started taking photos. And then I did a series of these photos called Farmhand.
Oh, cool.
That's how it grew because it was a change of perspective. You were seeing the world from a different angle just by being in a field,
Huh.
and suddenly the entire world changes. And it's a good way to consider art. How do you get inspiration for art?
Yeah.
You can stand at a canvas and bore yourself to death, make
Yeah.
all the wrong maps, or you can find inspiration out on the streets or out in nature, or just by seeing seeing the world from a different you know, 100, like 50 yards into this field. When would you ever be 50 yards in a field? Well, you wouldn't.
Right.
And suddenly I was. And so I could see something entirely different. So that's probably why these pictures were kind of resonant, because they were very kind of like real.
Yeah, they were, and it also is totally different from anything else in the fall artwork catalog. It's just like it just sticks out for any listener, and it kind of lets you get into it. And then there's a horse on the back with you. Now that we know it, now with you
Right,
standing
well,
next
that
to it.
horse,
Yeah,
that's another story. That horse had won first prize at the Royal Highland Show.
is that right?
Yeah, that's a Clydesdale.
Yeah,
I used to look after that horse
yeah,
for this guy that owned it. And Clydesdales are funny. Well, horses are funny. I'd never looked after horses before.
yeah.
But this guy asked me because I was living in the field next to me along with another couple of Clydesdale. And they used to escape. They used to escape out of the field. So I'd be sitting eating my dinner in this cottage, and these horses would run past the window. I'd be like, I'd put my dinner down, walk outside, and whistle. And the horses would stop, and I'd go, "Come on, get back here!" You know,
Yeah,
they'd
yeah,
turn around, come running, like galloping up towards me, and just stop right in front of me. And I'd just take them into the field, and they would run past the window because they knew I would see them, and they knew that that would be making me get out. Horses,
yeah,
horses are like that, you know.
yeah.
Yeah. So that horse I used to like feed every day and talk to.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it had one, I can't remember his name. It had a show name, but like to win the Royal Highland Show,
Hmm.
and that's the biggest show in the whole of Scotland, probably one in the whole of Britain, and that was like the top Clydesdale horse. So it made it onto the fall album cover as well. It was an important horse.
That's another prize. That's another prize for the horse. It's such an interesting look, though, between you with the foil on your head next to such a huge creature. I mean, such a huge animal. It's just like a very it's kind of perfect for the fall sound, right? Because it's something you're not expecting, and so it works perfectly. But Tommy, what about like your approach to playing the guitar once you get into the band? Did it have to change at all? Did you have to, or did you think that you could
Yeah.
go
No,
someplace? Yeah.
definitely. I had to like
Yeah.
calm it right down, you know,
Oh,
to Mar was not happy with anything. He would never tell you what he wanted. You had to like always sort of guess. But
huh.
like I would play with Steve all the time. And then when Carol came in, because we played with Simon for a couple of gigs, and Simon left the band, Simon Wollstonecroft, who I love, he's great.
Mhm.
I'd caught up with him as well. I hadn't seen him for ages. You know, it's just, Simon's a brilliant guy. And then Carol came back in, so the three of us started rehearsing together. We were always looking to keep it like as simple as possible, you know, keep a simple thing going.
Which is hard to strip it back like that, isn't it?
Well, Steve's really good at
Yeah, he is.
yeah, and so's Carol, you know,
Yeah,
I was playing with guys that were you know, legends, so
yeah.
they had good advice. And some crappy advice as well, which is the hilarious to think back on.
What kind of crappy advice were they doling out?
I can't remember.
Oh,
I can't remember. And inadvertently crappy. It was fun. It was like,
Did you continue playing once you left the fall? I know you briefly joined Steve's new band, Arc.
yeah, we did that after that.
Hmm.
No, but what I did after that, I was mixing it. I was working at mixing a lot of music. When I left the band, I started getting into property renovation. Took on a really big project. This house that had been built in the 17th century or something, but it had been ruined over the centuries by various rebuilds. I think it was like maybe the beginning of the 17th century the thing was built. And I was living in a caravan. You guys call it a trailer.
yeah.
In the garden, had a walled garden, and I was living in that. It was really nice. It was private, renovating this house, and I was mixing sound myself, doing like kind of like film tracks, like experimental stuff. And I actually brought out like an album of these tracks, just my own, like a, called Farmhand equals MC squared.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I was studying astronomy at the time as well. Studied astronomy for about 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and brought out these strange tracks. But the building and renovating got in the way of everything, and just like swallows up all your time, and then
Yeah.
the music just sort of died down. But I'd kind of grown out of it anyway. There was no point in doing anything if I wasn't playing with Steve.
Mm.
That's I always felt like Steve was the kind of brother in music.
When you guys were making Levitate, were you going for any sort of sounds that was there any kind of talk of that? Like going for something different? Because the album,
There was never any
yeah.
talk of that in the fall. Any talk of that, it was all
Huh.
acoustic. I only played on 2 or 3 tracks on that anyway. Most of it
Yeah.
was done by the time I came in. And no, there was never any talk of that. It was they just knew what they were doing, and
Yeah.
you were expected to know what to do. That's the difference between a professional band and an amateur band. Well, I can only speak with my experience in the fall, but I imagine it's like that for most bands. You're expected to know what to do.
Is there anything you took away as a musician from being in the fall approach?
Yeah, so like anything I took away as a musician. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, that's all right. That's
Yeah,
all right.
I can't really give you a
No, that's okay.
considered answer on that because it's not something I've really thought about in any depth.
No, that's all right. If it comes to mind, just let us know. Did you play with the 2 drummer lineup for live? No.
No, it was in the first 2 gigs I did was at a place called Jelly's Rock World in Manchester.
Okay.
2 nights we did.
Yeah.
And that was Simon was on drums then, and these were good. These were really good gigs. That was it.
Yeah. What's it like when the fall locks in a live performance and you're a part of it? I mean, you're doing it.
Well, that's a good question because it's there's a word that Carol used to use all the time. The dynamic. You use that word all the time, and I kind of think that describes it. When the strangeness of it kicks in, like the weirdness.
Yeah.
As Steve used to say, weird as normal. That was the company motto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird as normal. And yeah, I experienced that a few times playing live when it really kicked in, and it was I mean, thinking about it now, I can still taste the atmosphere
Oh,
of
wow.
these
Yeah.
gigs. How electric it was and how strange, and
Yeah.
there's just nothing like a normal band.
Yeah. What was it like playing with Steve after the fall in Arc? When was it a different dynamic?
It was
As you said? Yeah.
completely different because Mark wasn't there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
That was, for me, it was kind of like the aftermath of New York and everything was still kind of raw, you know.
Sure.
And then, I was having to travel from Edinburgh down to Manchester a lot to play and everything. To be honest, my heart wasn't in it,
Yeah.
after the
Yeah.
the year of playing with the fall. It was just not the same.
And maybe too soon, right? After you go through something like that intense.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's it like being asked to sing backing vocals on a fall track?
The first gig I played, right?
Yeah.
This was Jelly's Rock World, Manchester. So we were in the dressing room before the gig, and I was nervous as hell, And then Mark said, right, Tommy, I want you singing backing vocals and that, and like this, like, I felt like my soul left my body. It's like, I felt like the Exorcist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, Mark, I said, do you mind if I don't sing? He says, yes, I fucking do mind. Because he was just winding me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, the first rehearsal I had with the Fall, I don't know if this has ever been written about. Jesus, we went to it was a squat. A squat is usually a shitty house inhabited by people who are not paying the rent. They've just occupied it. So there was a squat in Longsight, Manchester, which was like Longsight is a place where you could easily get shot or stabbed,
Huh.
robbed or anything. It was a really heavy area of Manchester. And it was some guy that owned this. I don't know who he was. And we went down the stairs into this damp basement with like mattresses stuck to the wall in a tiny little room, not much bigger than my office. And so we were getting set up, and I was just being like stoic about it, thinking, why the hell have I got myself into here? Simon turned up, got his drums together, and we started playing. It was good, because it was manic and weird.
Right.
Mark turned up, right, with Julia Nagel, right? He turned up and he's wearing a new pinstripe suit and a pair of white gloves, and he's got a bottle of whiskey. And he's just like, what are you doing here? And we played, and that was an absolutely fantastic day. That
Yeah.
was really good. We all left feeling really, really good about that. And then I said to Simon at the end had said to me, what did you think of that then, Tommy? I says, well, it was a lot stranger than I thought it would be. And Simon says, Steve, come here. I says, he just said, it's a lot stranger than I thought it would be. And they just started laughing. Because, Matt was turning the lights out and stuff like that. Unplugging amps and stuff. It was crazy. And that's when Steve said, weird as normal. That's weirder than I thought. Weirder, the real meaning of the word weird as well. Like, it's an overused term, but it does best describe some of the situations that fall. No other word describes it as well as that. Weird.
Why does that sound like a ideal fall music video shoot? Mark with the white gloves on, the band, the lights coming on and off. It sounds great.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was a small room. It was horrible. And Steve said to me, I remember him saying, he says, mate, he says, I bet you thought we were going to be in some big white studio or something.
Yeah.
I said, I did think that. So that was that first rehearsal.
Do you remember any of the songs that you love to play, of that era or any of the eras that you were getting those songs down?
Yeah, I used to like to play He Pep. Simon wrote that song. I really liked that one. And Glam Racket, Fly Dream, I liked playing. Some of the new ones off of Levitate I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Spencer used to like playing that song.
Great song.
We played Hit Priest. That was a good one.
Yes.
Was there any like routine to like you guys warming up before like practice or anything like that? Did you do any cover songs or any like interesting things that you do on a regular basis?
No, there was never any practicing or like warming up.
Huh.
It was just I used to say to Steve, I'd like to rehearse. I'd like to rehearse to just try and run through it, but we're always really busy. We're always like running about Manchester. Johnny Bannon would be going picking up sort of drum kits and picking up Carol or, and then, doing this and that. And then it was busy.
Yeah.
And these guys knew, really experienced musicians. And I like to rehearse. I'm that type of person. I like to focus on something and go over it. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
It's just my modus operandi.
Do you have any fond memories of going on tour?
Oh, yeah. God almighty. Yeah. I mean, really, really fond memories. Now, at the time, it was pretty stressful at times, but we played, it was the third gig. We played at Bute Park in Cardiff. It was a big tent. We were a special guest to the Super Furry Animals.
Mm.
And Mark was in really high spirits. And he took me around the side and said, right, what are we going to play tonight? What are we going to play?
Mm.
So we sort of together wrote out this set, and I felt really privileged, like. And then before we went on, right, he handed me a bit of paper. Right?
Yes.
Right, Tommy, on you go. Oh, you go on, you start, like, sing that. And I'm going, oh, fuck's sake, not again, And it was like he'd given me like dry cleaning ticket, his clothes. And so I remember I've mentioned this quite a lot in the past, but I remember walking on stage and the crowd are going, wow. And it was a beautiful summer night, right? And, the rest of them were laughing at me, because,
Yeah.
our kid, Carol used to call me, on the stage, on your own. And halfway across the stage, I can distinctly remember thinking, right, you go on, you play, or you turn and you go home. That's the choice you got here. Went on, started playing, and we sounded like the Stooges that night. It was a really dead beat and really powerful. And I don't think Super Furry Animals were too happy about it.
No.
Nah, he blew that away. And it really was. Mark was in great form. It did that. That's what it keeps reminding me of the Stooges. There was some really heavy vibe we had on stage.
Sure.
I remember young people across the front that probably never heard of us.
Yeah.
Before. They were like, oh, chins had dropped.
Yeah.
Watching this strangeness that Mark was casting out all over the place. And that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of memories. Lots of very, very funny memories. I mean, Carol Burns, right, is like a natural born comedian of the highest level. I mean, really, really hilarious. He'd be like falling about laughing, it's outrageous live street performances he would give to members of the public. It's absolutely crazy. But he had lots of great memories. We played Edinburgh. That was an amazing gig, a tiny little place. The newspapers described that as like the Wicker Man. It was really weird. I'd done a slideshow, like I'd set like a couch, a sofa. I don't know what you call it in America.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got to get one thing straight here about America, UK.
Yeah.
You guys call it math. It's called maths.
Maths. Oh,
It's got an
plural.
S in there.
Yeah, there's more. There's more maths. There's more maths.
It's maths. Fucking math.
Uh,
And so, with a couch, what do you call a couch?
Yeah, couch.
Yeah, couch.
That's right. So I had this couch.
Yeah.
And in this place I lived and where a horse was, now there was this big field, and I took it outside and I set it on fire because I wanted to get rid of it.
Yeah.
You could understand, right, how a granny would die on one of these if she dropped her cigarette on it.
Oh, sure.
The flames were like 50 feet high. So of course I ran and got the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like the slideshow.
Yeah.
And this gig,
That's cool.
flames. Like, I'm not joking, that happened within seconds as well.
That's cool. Yeah.
That was crazy. So, yeah, there was a lot of good gigs. Leeds, we did a really good gig in Leeds one night. Yeah, I mean, going to New York, playing first night in New York, playing Boston, Washington. I mean, going to America, we go to America, this is back in the 90s. For me, this is like before anything was happening. There was no internet or anything. So it was a big, big deal. Everything was a big deal. I mean, and I'd said, you remember the Monkees?
Yeah.
Well, I'd said to Simon on the first rehearsal, I said, I kind of thought this was going to be like the Monkees, the Monkees TV show
Yeah.
in a way. It kind of was from the event.
It sounds more wild than the Monkees, honestly. I mean, there's a story about you and Carl missing a flight to America. Is that right?
That's right.
What was going on that day?
We were in Heathrow, went to get a flight to New York, and Carl and I went to the pub
Yeah.
in Heathrow. We'd been awake all night. So I was staying at his house that night.
Yeah.
Which was unwise on the flight. We arrived at the airport, we were tired out, and went to the pub.
Yeah.
But like Mark had said in the book that we'd refused to go on the flight until they got drugs for us. That's just not true.
No? Okay.
We were pissed drunk, We
Yeah.
fell asleep. That was bad. I remember, oh God. But we got on the next flight. I don't know how we got a flight. Somebody put us on a flight. And we arrived, right? We arrived in New York and got a cab. And we had no money to pay for it. So we got to the hotel. But Rex was there, Rex Sargent. God rest him, he's no longer with us. Rex paid for the cab. And then we walked in the hotel and Mark came walking down the corridor and says, oh, so you got here, did you? He was all like, yeah, we're here. I was like, as if nothing had happened.
It sounded like if Mark was in a good mood, everything was elevated, like for performance-wise. But if he was not in maybe the best mood or something was bothering him, was there anything that you guys could do as a band that would maybe help the situation? Did you find anything like that?
It was very dynamic,
Yeah.
several different moods, and it was unpredictable. Like, we were all quite odd people individually as well, it wasn't all down to him,
Yeah.
We tried to be as supportive as possible. I liked having the show on the road, I thought it was important the way I played and stuff. Sometimes the gig was pulled for whatever reasons, but it could be, Mark was incredibly charming at times.
Yeah.
I miss him actually. I think about him, it was a privilege to meet him and see him at his best as well as at his worst at times, but I certainly saw him in times when he was in really, really good spirits and we were enjoying it, we were working hard and trying to make it all work.
Did you ever get any insights into Mark's writing process, like what that entailed?
Never asked.
Yeah.
That was the thing, and just funnily enough, again, I think that's a generational thing. He probably read all the books at the time, because that's what he used to do. He would read books. Say if you were off school ill, you couldn't just dial into Netflix or something. You'd have a book. I can remember reading The Lord of the Flies when I was 12. I was off school. I had asthma, so I used to get really bad asthma. The Lord of the Flies. My mum always had books kicking about. And science fiction books. I read everything by Philip K. Dick. Turned out that Mark had as well, but that's something we never ever spoke about. I didn't know that.
Huh.
So his writing, we're the land of Shakespeare. I'll tell you something interesting, right? Now, I'm multilingual. Right? I speak Mandarin and French and some Japanese as well. So I understand a bit about structural language. Mandarin's a strange, beautiful language. English, right? English is the language that's really the strangest of all. It's like made up of lots of different bits and pieces. They're all kind of nailed together and then sanded down, trying to make it smooth. And it's all like Shakespeare invented it. Brought it from French, German, Germanic, pre-modern Italian, everything was brought in. And I think that reflects through Mark's writing.
Yeah.
English is the language of literature and poetry. So I guess he had a deep intuitive knowledge of that, plus experiential, from reading the books, and he just understood how to do that. Plus he was smart.
Yeah. it seemed like he was never lacking for material. It seemed like he always had bounds and bounds of written words to go into songs. Did it seem that way to you for like when you guys are in the studio, like or in his performing on tracks, recording them in the studio?
Yeah, he knew what he was doing, but he was like really experienced. I mean, I went to art college. Like now, I know about two painters that can do that, what Mark did, and the rest that can't.
Right.
You know, and some artists can just produce work because it comes out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some artists have to struggle like hell, but he understood his language, and he understood how to manipulate language to make it really meaningful. And tell you one thing about Mark that was probably better than anybody was his sense of timing. You know, he could time when to drop a lyric and when not to.
Yes.
You know, Carol used to talk about how he learned the sense of timing from Mark.
Yeah, it's so unique, his sense of timing, because even like we've been listening to so much Fall and even the live performances, he would switch it up sometimes, which is really it just shows the performance was always changing and evolving, which is beautiful.
Yeah, it's kind of beautiful. And funnily enough, I've been listening to Fall recently, which I haven't done for years. One or two tracks. One that really intrigues me, Time Enough at Last.
Mm,
That track really intrigues me because I love Craig Scanlon was just the best guitarist for me. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful way he played it. You know, it reminds me of Phil Manzanera, Roxy Music,
oh yeah, sure.
Steve, and John McGeer,
Yeah.
Susie and the Banshees and magazine and stuff. And Craig Scanlon, like that. Strange thing. It worked really well with Mark's lyrics, you know.
It really did. It kind of the going back to what you were talking about earlier, that kind of minimalism, not playing too much. That's what Craig, I think, always and also he always had an abstractness that was really nice to hear next to, let's say, like Brix's guitar, which is completely different, but those 2 together work so well.
Craig really, really understood melody, and again, his timing was incredible. And he was a very, very talented musician, an incredibly talented musician. They all were.
Yes,
I mean, Steve Hanley, Jesus.
no doubt about it.
There was no, there, and Paul. I had the privilege of playing with Paul Hanley as well. And just incredible, incredible musicians. Steve, like I still rate as the best bass player alive.
Yeah.
You know, just
Yeah.
his technical, his melodic skills. Melody is always a big thing for me. Melody wins all the time.
Yeah.
And Steve's just incredible at that.
How would you compare the drummers you played with? Because you played with so many, Carl, Paul, Cy. How do you compare their styles? Because they work together so well. You can see it currently with the House of All. But what about them individually, would you say?
Well, they're just entirely different. I mean, Simon, I always loved Simon's drumming, especially on,
Extricate?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Black,
and
yeah,
if you
Black Monk.
listen to Simon, listen to Carla, Paula, Slates,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Cold and Loving, Leave the Capital and stuff. And
Yeah.
they are 3 distinctly different drummers. I mean, Paul, right?
Yeah.
The last thing I saw Paul, it's like watching a mountain playing drum.
Huh.
The sound he brings out is unreal. Paul's hilarious as well. Paul's really, he's a really funny guy. Just very smart as well. Very intelligent guy. But his drumming's powerful and clever. They're all great. They're all great
Mhm.
and very different. Really, really different. And it was amazing to hear Carol playing again. At that House of All Good. Couldn't believe it, seeing him again after all that time. It was just lovely. It's a brotherhood.
It seemed like he kind of came out of nowhere to join the band, that nobody had seen him for quite a long time.
Yeah, and I think Carol had like gone into a successful career after the Fall, and Martin got a hold of him. I don't know how he did. Oh no, 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 no. Martin had mentioned something in a newspaper cutting the Irish Times or something. And Carol had read it and just got in touch with him. Because I think Carol told me, Martin had said, Carol Burns is the hermit, he's disappeared the hermit. And Carol had got a hold of this and emailed Martin, says, less than a fucking hermit, mate. You know, and that was it. That was then back. You know, like, I couldn't believe it. See him again. It was just great. It really was. It was just great. A lovely feeling. It was like seeing a long lost brother. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Let Carl know that we're looking forward to a book of his side of the story and his experience.
That's right.
It'd be great.
Carol's another one. Carol's intelligent as well. Carol's very, very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart. Very, very smart. Articulate, eloquent guy. That'll be an interesting book.
That would be that would be great. I'd love to read that. I mean, Tommy, we've appreciated the time you've given. I'm just wondering if there's any, looking back on the fall, it sounds like you're diving into the catalog. Anything that you would like to share with us?
Just I guess, you know, I feel privileged to have been part of that, to meet Steve, Mark, Carl, Simon, Paul, Martin. I only met Martin a couple of years ago for the Bricks, you know, and it feels like brotherhood. You know, I'd said that to Martin. I said it's like a brotherhood. He says, well, it is.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you were in the fall, we were all in the fall, and when you go through something as kind of like heavily meaningful as that, because it is, you know, there's no doubt about that. Anybody that has heard the fall knows that that's something different. That's a different band. And do you know Grant Showbiz?
Yeah.
Grant, I mean, it was brilliant to see him again. I hadn't seen him in 30 years. You know, a right old English hippie. Classic English hippie, Grant, but with all the, you know. So it's just a privilege to have been part of that. I've got great memories. Memories. That was 1 year. I'll tell you what Carol said, right? 1 year in the fall, he says, the fall is like dog years. He says, that's like 5 years in a normal band. That stayed with me for years and years and years. 1 year in the fall is like 5 years in a normal band because it's dog year.
Yeah. But does it feel like that? Did it feel like that?
It was so intense. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so intense.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it really was.
Yeah.
Every minute. And the fans, we used to talk about this, the fans used to love the fall. You know, it was strange because it was so weird and the music was so heavy and the lyrics were so resonant and everything. But the reality of it was much, much stranger. They couldn't like see in and the inside of it. The inside of it was actually a lot stranger.
Yeah.
Than people would possibly imagine.
Yeah. Well, that's why we appreciate you sharing with us your experiences, because it's fun for us as fall fans to get into the backside of it a little bit, as much as we can. So it's been a good time, Tommy.
Easy. Bye-bye.